This OPEC meeting, or this meeting between OPEC and non-OPEC members, do you anticipate that it will change anything about the price of oil in the near term?
Well, they're really having to confront a challenge here. It's clear that we're pushing out the time frame for rebalancing, and you touched on it just now, that Libya and Nigeria have been excluded, and now they've really come back with very strong production in the recent months. They need to be included, and I think there'll be an effort in this discussion to establish some kind of a cap on their production. The upside could be there, and unless there's an agreement that figures out how to accommodate the production levels in Libya and Nigeria, the market's going to remain doubtful on this situation. There are a few other... Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, how do they get included? Does somebody else then have to decide that they'll do less? If you look at OPEC Go, you can see exactly what they're allowed to contribute and what they have been contributing. What happens to those two countries and their output, Tom?
Well, it's not just those two. Those two were the big contributors to the overproduction, but they need to bring in the others to what was already agreed to. That'll help somewhat. And it's pretty clear that Saudi Arabia, possibly Russia, would accommodate some if they could get an agreement that everybody will buy into. The other factor that I think is important here, and I think it will show up in the next 3 to 5 months, is there's some strength in the global economy that may be surprising to the process of accommodation here. Also, we're seeing a leveling out of drilling rig activity, which, if that continues, that'll be helpful. And most importantly, we've seen U.S. in the last 3 or 4 weeks, we've seen real draws on inventories in the U.S. And it wouldn't surprise me if that trend continues. Let's see what the numbers are on Wednesday on that. So it's not a clear-cut, totally negative, but it's also one of real concern. And I think the leadership of OPEC by the Saudis and the non-OPEC by the Russians will be critical.
Tom, Stephen Shork overnight raised a question. Why isn't the market pricing in the potential loss of 2% of production, which is obviously Venezuela?
Well, one of the real problems there is that probably is going to come along, and that's a good question. But in the near term, Venezuela is the most price-sensitive producer out there. They're a price taker. So in the near term, they have to sell every barrel they can, and it means they're taking shortcuts and so on. They've been part of the problem and will probably be that way for some time to come. Next 3 to 4 months anyway, I wouldn't count on Venezuela unless you have a total anarchy developing.